Tehran setting up a new body to manage the Strait of Hormuz under Iranian blockade, effective since US-Israeli strikes began late February. Iran says the newly established Persian Gulf Strait Authority, as part of its regulation of the waterway, will provide real-time updates of operations. It's not immediately clear what else this authority might do, although Iran has suggested it might charge a toll. Iran keeping up as well on the diplomatic front, insisting it has responded to a new US peace proposal via mediator Pakistan, with the latest demands including the release of frozen funds and the lifting of sanctions. State media says indirect exchange between both sides continues. Speaking to Fortune magazine, the US president saying Iran is, quote, dying to sign a deal, while also putting the blame on Iran for the current impasse, accusing Tehran of sending proposals unrelated to the aspired deal. The American leader repeating an earlier warning that the clock is ticking. Unnamed officials suggesting late last week that the US and Israel could be preparing to renew their attacks that would effectively end the 6-week ceasefire. Iran issuing its own warning. A military advisor to the supreme leader says the army's fingers are on the trigger and ready to retaliate. Nick Harper reports for CNA live from Washington, D.C. Nick, this latest authority launched by Iran, confirming what it's likely to do, what's the likely US reaction?
Well, it's not likely to be very good, Wei Su. We know that the United States is very much against any Iranian control of the Strait of Hormuz. That is something that Donald Trump, his administration, have spoken about in recent weeks, while we've seen the effective closure of the strait. They were against the toll system that Iran had set up before. And really, them managing the strait raises questions about which ships will be let through. For example, will they only be allowing ships through that they view as coming from friendly nations and preventing other ships from having safe passage through that waterway? All of that remains unclear, but what it does also make clear is that once again the Strait of Hormuz is so central to what happens next. We've had several updates from the US president during the course of Sunday, writing on social media that time is of the essence for Iran, very much suggesting that there is that underlying frustration for the administration to try and get Iran to negotiate a deal. Also speaking to Axios, the US president said that the US will hit Iran much harder than before if they are unable to accept the US proposal. And as you mentioned, speaking also to Fortune magazine, saying that Iran is dying to sign a deal. But that doesn't exactly look like it's the case, because we've had multiple weeks of this ceasefire. The idea was that during that time there would be a negotiated peace. It hasn't happened yet. And remember that the last time that Iran put forward a proposal last week, Donald Trump said it was totally unacceptable. We'll wait and see what he thinks of the latest proposal from Iran. But the thinking is that it probably will not be viewed favourably by Washington.
Nick, warnings from Mr. Trump that time is running out and that he will hit back much harder. We have heard these several times before. Are there any clearer signals now that there may be, as officials warned last Friday, in fact, that there may be a return to an intense bombing campaign from US and Israel on Iran?
Well, you're right. There are threats, many threats that the US president has put out during the course of this conflict and then ceasefire, threats that haven't translated to action. But there is a feeling in Washington, as we head into this new week, that things might be about to change. We know that Donald Trump and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke on Sunday. We're told that they discussed possible next steps when it comes to Iran. We also know that Donald Trump is expected to convene a meeting of his national security advisors in the Situation Room on Tuesday. Again, they will be looking at possible options for Iran. Really, that frustration, I think, underlying all of this, the fact that this ceasefire has not translated into a peace deal, that it hasn't led to any sort of long-term negotiated peace. And Donald Trump last week said that the ceasefire, which has been running for about 6 weeks, was on life support. He said it had a 1% chance of survival. But if Donald Trump decides to go ahead with renewed military action, there are already warnings, including from the former Congresswoman and former Trump ally, Marjorie Taylor Greene. She has said that if there are boots on the ground, there would be a political revolution here in the United States in response to Donald Trump's actions.
Oh, thanks, Nick Harper for CNN in Washington, D.C.